There are so many misconceptions about the BMW G20 330 platform, and I'm here to answer the 7 most common questions I get on my comments. I selected comments from my TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube together. Hopefully, this clears up some things. So let's go through all of them. So the first question I have is, are they actually reliable? Are BMW G20 platforms actually reliable? So for reference, before we actually move forward, the G20 is the 330i and the M340i. And specifically talking about the 330i platform, because that's what I have, but the M340i is essentially the same thing. It's a B58 engine versus the B48, which is just 2 less cylinders. To answer the question, are they actually reliable? Absolutely. Who consider like a Honda or Toyota or Mazda, a BMW 330 is going to give you really the exact same reliability. I would rate the reliability realistically like a 9 out of 10. These cars will comfortably push over 150,000 miles, and it's been proven. My current one, I do only have 30,000 miles on mine. Mine is a 2019 model that is lightly driven, but I've talked to many owners and it's very bulletproof when it comes down to it. Next question I have is, does it have aftermarket support? Depending on which route you want to take with the car, I mean, there's so many different options, from cosmetic things to do to performance things. I will be touching on this on a later question as well, but as far as aftermarket support, I mean, there are upgraded turbos, intake manifolds, downpipes, exhaust, pretty much everything you could think of. So it's really hard to not like this vehicle. When looking at specific parts for like aftermarket performance parts, the car comes equipped with around like 260 horsepower. That is coming from a turbocharged inline-4 engine, so it's a pretty small engine. Easy upgrades you can do for less. I mean, if you really want to get your car like fully done, I mean, for less than $5,000, it's going to be much cheaper than an M340i. It's not going to have the exact same power, but it's going to be pretty close. And for reference, if you're looking at 330i, you can buy one for like $25,000, whereas a M340i is going to cost another $10,000 to $15,000 on top of that. So to start off, you might get like a VRSF downpipe for your 330. That's going to cost you around $300. You can get a tune that's going to cost you like $300 to $500 depending on who you go with. At that point, you're going to be pushing over 300 horsepower. Then if you want to get into more serious numbers, you can look into buying a bigger turbo, especially like the one from IPOS. None of this stuff is sponsored, just things that I've seen for my car. With that, you can do a few other upgrades that we'll get into in another video. If you guys want to see that, let me know if you want to see what a full build will look like on a 330i, because there's a little bit more that goes into it, but that's going to give you crazy power compared to the stock numbers. Next question I have is, what are the best cosmetic upgrades? This is such a common question that I get, where they ask where I got my stuff, because a lot of the stuff I've done is mostly cosmetic. First, cosmetic upgrades, the first thing you're going to do, obviously, window tint on all the cars. I recommend getting like 15%. And a lot of people forget to do their front windshields. I highly recommend minimum doing 50% on the front windshields. And then if you want to get darker, you could do like a 35% or 20%. I don't really recommend that. It's a little bit too dark for my liking, and it's not legal in some states, so just keep that in mind. Outside of that, you can get a trunk lip spoiler like I have here, and then you can get a carbon front lip. That's what I did as well. I got mine from Keys Motorsports. I don't know if it's still available, but there's a lot of options out there, so whatever one fits your style and preference and what you want. I'm more of a OEM plus guy, so I like to keep mine pretty simple. It's obviously carbon. I think it looks good, and it kind of just emphasizes with the kind of blacked out look my car has. It works. You see on my car, it actually originally had the chrome grille all around it, just like the basic 330i one. I did upgrade that to the M340i, so that's another one you can get. It's all blacked out and it has the diamond mesh on it. Personally, looks better than just the straight lines and the chrome. I don't want any chrome on my car because I already have a package that basically the shadow line package, and it blacks out everything else, so the grille was just bothering me. Outside of that, you can get the yellow DRLs that are like on the CSL, like M4s and M3s. This is a pretty popular thing to do. I honestly like it. I don't know, I couldn't decide. I really like the way the white looks, so I don't know. That's just where I'm at. I do have the upgraded laser lights that usually do not come in a 330i. Most commonly, you'll get ones that look like this. That's a pretty standard one for the 330s, but just depends on which model you get. Outside of that, you can get some side skirts, get a carbon hood if you want to go that route, or you could paint it, whatever you want to do. Now, number 4 is a big question. Now, this one, a lot of people are going to want to hear, what issues do I run into, and what issues can I expect by owning a G20 330? See some of my old videos, I referenced that I had some issues with the ambient lighting. It was just it being disconnected. It wasn't a big issue. They were able to fix it right away, didn't charge me. Outside of that, here's like the regular maintenance that you should be looking for. For a 330, I personally just, I'm going to say I don't recommend, but you don't need to get an oil change every 5,000 miles. I would say every 7,500, 8,000 miles is probably where you should get it. BMW recommends every 10,000 miles. I would get it a little bit before that. This just helps take care of your car. For cars that are going to be newer, especially like newer than like 6 years old, they're going to cost around $120 to $160 for your oil change, depending on where you live. Now, after that, some other things you need to consider. One a lot of people forget about is it does require premium gas. That does add up. I live in New Mexico, and gas for me is around $60 to $70 for premium gas, just for reference. You could pay as low as probably $45 and as much as like $75, depending on where you're at. After that, depending on how you drive your car and the owners and how it's been upkept and everything, you will have to do the brakes. The rear brakes will probably go first and then the front brakes. In my experience, the rear brakes by themselves were around $450. The front brakes were around $500. Something else you have to keep in mind as well. Those up together, you're looking at about $1,000 to replace all the brakes unless you do them yourself. I heard it's a little bit more complicated than regular cars, but I would recommend if you're able to do it by yourself, just do that. It costs you a quarter of the price. One other issue that does come up, hasn't happened to my car, like I said, because my car only has 30,000 miles, but many owners have mentioned to me that between 50,000 and 90,000 miles, the motor mounts will go out. Something to really keep in mind, because it's pretty common in these cars, just because the amount of torque it has, it causes the engine to rattle a lot. And with the aggressive torque and your car starting every day, the motor mounts just naturally go out. This really just depends on how you drive and everything, but I would estimate between 50 to 70,000 miles is probably where your motor mounts are going to start going out. If you feel your car idling hard or making a weird like noise when it's starting, just keep that in mind. Or if you're buying a new one, keep that in mind as well. Question number 5 is, why would you choose a 330 over an M340i? Well, the first answer to that is simply the price. As I mentioned before, they're going to be $10,000 to $15,000 cheaper than an M340i. Biggest difference is literally just going to be performance. They're about 97% identical, as you can see here. There is some slight cosmetic changes, but it's really hard to tell. It's like the naked eye if you're just letting it pass by and you glance at it. But yes, the biggest difference is the performance. There's like 382 horsepower in M340i versus like the 260 or 255 that's in the 330i. And the 330 is for someone that wants to kind of dabble into BMWs or dabble into their first kind of sports sedan car and kind of just have fun with it. Liability is solid. It's a fun car to drive. You do a lot of stuff like I mentioned before. And the 330 is going to be much cheaper all around. Like I mentioned before, if you want to see a video where you can get 450 horsepower out of your 330i and still make it reliable, I'll make a whole nother video on that. You can easily do that for around $5,000 to $6,000, which you're still going to be paying a lot less than an M340i. I would say you might be able to even do it for like $4,500. Question number 6, what is the difference of the F30 and the G20? G20 actually launched in 2019. The vehicles before 2019 were essentially F30s. The F30 still uses the B48 engine. The biggest difference you're going to notice is the technology and the interior. G20 did get considerably larger all around. It got wider, longer, taller. It was a complete redesign, but still has the same emphasis and personality of any BMW 3 Series. For reference, you can see what the interior looked like and the exterior. There's slight differences and stuff like that, especially in the grille. And you'll notice with the new iDrive system in the G20, it looks much nicer. You get the ambient lighting, just a whole different layout in the infotainment system and everything. So if you just want to own your first BMW, first B48, and you want just something reliable, I recommend the F30. It's a good car. You could get them from like $18,000 to $22,000. But it just makes more sense to me to upgrade to the 2019, 2020 models, which are going to be the G20 chassis, and you just get a lot more car for the price. The 7th and last question are, what are the best packages or options for the 330i? This is my favorite one because I was so focused on this during my buying process of this car. I've not caught it before, but I'll show another picture of my car. I actually have a very rare spec 330i. It essentially has every package it could come with. So from what I know from the story I was told, there was a guy in California, he spec'd this car out as kind of a daily driver. He apparently had supercars and stuff like that, and he wanted just a super simple daily driver, under the radar type of car, but he obviously wanted it fully loaded. This 330i spec'd from the factory and drove it for a few months just on and off. It wasn't really a daily driver because this car only had like 19,000 miles. And then he basically sold it back to BMW. When I actually talked to them, it just seemed like a deal I honestly couldn't refuse. It was a solid deal. I love the spec on it. I really wanted the laser lights on my car. It's pretty uncommon on the 330s, so I just decided to pull the trigger. One of the biggest ones I'd recommend is the premium package. The premium package is coming like with the heads-up display, the heated seats, heated steering wheel, basically everything in the convenience package is also included in that. It's like parking assist, keyless entry, active driving assist, parking sensors, LED headlights. The other package I recommend is the technology package. My car also came with this. It's also going to have wireless phone charging. It's going to have a Harman Kardon sound system, which is a must. If you love music the way I do, I have to have that system. That is something that's one of my like main things I have to have in my car. We'll have to have leather seats. Some people care about performance. I care about the sound system. It has this cool mode where it's like a theatric mode, and it sounds absolutely insane. It gives like a kind of theater vibe, and you can hear the sounds all around you. It's like super immersive. I love it. The package that's super important is the M Sport package. This one has like the M Sport like sill. Basically puts like M badges on your like steering wheel. It gives you a different gauge cluster, infotainment system. But the biggest thing is you're going to get a sports suspension and you're going to get an upgraded body kit. You look at a regular 330 and you look at a M Sport 330, they look completely different. The rear looks a lot more aggressive and the front. It is a must to get that. If you're going to get any package, honestly, get the M Sport package. And you can get the Shadowline package. The Shadowline package basically just going to black out all the chrome. It's a chrome delete essentially. But one of the few things that I said is a super rare spec is you have to have all the packages, and you have to specially order the laser lights to actually get them on a 330i. That's why I told the story about how I was able to get them, because they are not common. You basically cannot get them unless you have the car spec'd from the dealership with the laser lights. Not even really common on the M340i's. See them in a lot of M3s, but like I said, people call them the poverty lights, the regular ones with just a little swoop at the bottom. They still look good though, so I'm not taking anything away from them. For me personally, I really wanted the laser lights though. And you guys are the first to hear this, but I am selling my BMW 330i, so if you are interested in buying it, comment below, let me know. I have a good deal on it. It's a super low mileage and amazing spec'd out. But if you're just looking at one in the market, they are going to range from $25,000 to about $32,000 depending on maintenance, year, options, and all that stuff. I'll see you guys in the next one.